Welcome back to the National Football League show. My name is Emmett Swarat. I'm here with B. We are going to get into our Sunday night football recap. It was the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk Steelers first because they were the losing team. If you want to see our commentary on the Cowboys, I will have that timestamped down in the description. You should be able to just go to it if you're a Cowboys fan. But with that out of the way, B, let's get right into this with the Steelers. What was your takeaway from watching this game?
Honestly, I don't know how the Steelers managed to lose that game. Okay. Before the game started, Michael Parsons was out. Starting corner, Kalen Carson, I think how he says his first name, was out. Also, Brendyn Cooks was out, which is somewhat a minor point for that Cowboys offense since Lamb is still there and stuff like that. But still. And during the game, the Cowboys turned the ball over 3 times, had more penalties than the Steelers, but they somehow still had the ball longer than the Steelers, had more first downs than the Steelers, and converted more third downs than the Steelers. What the hell? that was my first thought.
Yeah, and I kind of was watching at the time, and obviously we're watching the game, or I'm watching the game, trying to take away points for us to discuss after. And if the Cowboys hadn't come back and won that, my commentary was going to be on the Cowboys and their inability to play clean ball. Like you mentioned, too many penalties, too many turnovers. They gave the game away. Obviously, they were able to eke out a win. Jalen Tolbert had a great catch on the 1 yard line to secure the game, get the win for him. Which we need to discuss. We'll discuss Jalen Tolbert in the Cowboys section. He had a great game. And I think he's a name we need to start learning. But this is the Steelers. This is what the Steelers are. They're a defense-led team. We knew this coming in. Their offense is conservative. There's a clear cap. They can't put up points at will. Any other team, most other teams, if you give them 3 additional opportunities, 3 different additional possessions, a huge advantage in the penalty game, that team's coming out with a blowout. There's no reason this game should not have been a blowout. And I started seeing a little bit of pushback online about don't blame Justin Fields. This is on the defense. They need to make a stop. You make a stop. This is a different conversation. And I disagree with that. I'm going to push back on that narrative a little bit because the Steelers defense was absolutely containing Dak Prescott in this Cowboys offense. It was brutal at one point. Dak was just running for his life. I started feeling bad for him. The whole situation changed when Nick Herbert got hurt. Because at that point, him and TJ were just living in the backfield. But once Herbert went down, there became more opportunities, more time for Dak to work and to find openings and pick apart that average secondary, I'll say. Minkah Fitzpatrick is obviously an all-pro. I have some questions about the corners. Deontay Johnson, he had a pick, but again, he's not always great. That's why he's not in Carolina anymore. Joey Porter Jr. is a good young player, but I saw a key moment where he literally on the sideline, I think it was CD, caught the ball, and instead of trying to make a tackle, literally just punched at the ball and let him run by him, but he didn't get it. So there's some questions there. But once Herbert went down and they weren't able to get that consistent pressure on Dak Prescott, the defense started failing. At that point, they kind of needed the offense to take advantage, pick up the slack a little bit. And Justin Fields, not isolated to Justin Fields, went 15 of 27 for 131 yards, an average of about 5 yards a pass or a completion, with QBR of 35.5 and a rating of 93.3. It's okay. It's serviceable. It's fine. Those are fine numbers. But when you need someone to convert on third downs, to sustain drives, to run that clock, those numbers don't get it done. And we can go into the receiving weapons, and I'll allow you to talk on this. We had George Pickens. I'll just let you, George Pickens. What are your thoughts on the George Pickens situation?
I didn't even realize that he was on a snap count during the game until I was looking at more of a box score number. So the Steelers offense ran 57 plays. George Pickens was out there for 34 of those snaps. So a little more than half. Why? He is your wide receiver 1. Pretty much the only real valid receiver option out there, right? I just don't get it. I know that he's in the doghouse for some effort issues, which did seem like at times during the game last night that he was just out there jogging. Let's just not putting up effort, at least maybe the run game, maybe on plays where he knew he wasn't the target for whatever reason, right? But still, like, I don't know, man. I get it. I mean, obviously, Mike Tomlin, Hall of Fame head coach at this point, like, he knows how to deal with players. So I'm not going to go out here and be like, I know more than Mike Tomlin. But when your offense is, like, struggling as bad as they did, you would think you want your wide receiver one out there for a little more than half the plays potentially. But I don't know, man.
Yeah, and I don't want to divulge this whole game review into a reaction into just a George Pickens thing, but we have commented on George Pickens last season. We've commented him, I believe, in a couple preseason games or whatever it was, where it's an attitude issue with George Pickens. He has all the talent in the world, I mean, the guy has God-given ability, absolutely, but it's a mental thing. And it's what seemed to be again last night. It would seem like a temper tantrum on a field, even at the end of the game. I mean, literally the last play of the game. Oh my God, what was it? Was it an interception? It was a fumble, something like that. You know, yeah. a Cowboys defender number 2 came up with the ball.
Lewis. Lewis, right? Yeah, and he threw him down or something by his like mouthpiece or something.
Yeah, like that. Runs by, and again, the guy kind of taunts in Pickens' face. Okay, granted, whatever. You just made the game-sealing play. Okay, but then to rip the guy down by his face mask. It's one of those things that go back. It's selfish play, you know, and thankfully it didn't cost him in the game, because at that point the game was over. You know, you can't really throw a flag once the game's over. It doesn't really affect anything. But I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a fine or a suspension or something like that. But it's just, I go back to, it's the same selfish level of play, you know. And you're right, they don't have a whole lot of other options, receiving options on offense. Van Jefferson he's okay. He's a decent number 3. Connor Hayward he's backup tight end. Pat Freiermuth didn't really show up too much. He had 3 catches for 22 yards. You also have, oh my gosh, who's the other tight end? Darnell Washington, the future potential left tackle. I'm kidding about that, obviously. The guy could do whatever he wants. He could be, he could be a left tackle if he wanted to. He can also be a exceptional tight end. So I'm just joking about that. I apologize to the Steelers fans.
I'm actually offended by that, Emmett.
I'm sure by that comment. I'm sure there's Steelers fans that are, you know, maybe a little sensitive to the team just lost, and now we're making jokes at their expense. I can, as a 49ers fan, I can definitely get into your shoes there. But yeah, this is
Calvin Austin. He's like a gadget guy, I think.
Yeah, he's Calvin a gadget guy.
Yeah, he's just.
Yeah, but this is what the Steelers are. This is what their ceiling is. This is what their ceiling is year in and year out. They don't get high-level quarterback play, so you're a defense first team, and when you can't, you know, extend drives, you can't convert on third downs, you lose games that you should win. And this is definitely a game I feel like the Steelers should absolutely have won.
Cowboys, so they actually surprised me, even though like I kind of had a hunch, like a little bit of a hunch that they were going to win, just because like I wasn't bought into the Steelers offense a little bit. And also it helps, I have like 2 players on the Cowboys on my fantasy team, so I was like, okay, come on. But they were pretty much begging the Steelers, as we kind of already said, to win that game. It was a very sloppy game from the Cowboys. Looking at the box score here, they committed 11 penalties. I see here, turn over the ball 3 times. Dak had a gross pick right before halftime in the red zone. But he did finish the game 29 for 42, 352 yards, and again 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. So I mean, he kind of did enough, I guess, to win a game, even though he kind of did a lot to lose the game too. Look at the rushing totals real quick. Yeah, it looks like how do you say this guy's last name? Rico Dowdle? Am I
I think it's saying like
that right? Dowdle. Yeah, he's definitely the lead back. I actually don't like mind him. I think he's pretty solid there. And the defense kind of did their thing for the most part. I mean, kind of helps when the Steelers offense was kind of struggling too. But hey, defense, the Cowboys defense, also the other half of that. You know, they're still doing good like stuff. Kendricks were all over like the field. I think he finished the game with 10 tackles. They also were missing Micah Parsons, but still getting, I guess, decent pressure, I guess. But yeah, no, I think it was a good enough game by them. It was sloppy and it was ugly. I'm intrigued to see what happens next couple of weeks with the Cowboys, but they did enough to win.
Yeah, the main takeaway for me from this game is kind of similar to yours. It was a sloppy game. There's no reason the Dallas Cowboys should have walked out of Pittsburgh with a win in this one, but they did, and that's the only stat that really matters at the end of the day is they walked away with a win. The alternative point that I took away from this game for the Cowboys is that this is a very deep roster to me. I mean, I know they kind of talked about halfway through the game. I think they switched up their run style. They were trying to force this outside zone scheme that wasn't really working for them. For Rico Dowdle, he's definitely a north-south runner. He wants to hit the hole, go, give him a gap scheme, whatever it is. So and that seemed to really work for him again. He rushed for 87 yards on 20 carries, averaged about 4.4 yards a carry. So it's good for them to finally find a run game. But again, I go back to this is just a deep roster. Like you said, Micah Parsons wasn't in, and you had these other guys on the defense line that stepped out. CeeDee Lamb and Dak seem to have, for nicer terms, we'll call it a squabble on the sideline. But you had other guys like Jalen Tolbert, the kid out of South Alabama, who stepped up with 87 yards on 7 catches. Jake Ferguson stepped up in this game. He had 6 catches on 70, or he had 6 catches for 70 yards. So to me, this is just one of those things where it showed to me how deep Dallas is, and that's going to be very critical if you're trying to make a deep playoff run, because injuries are going to happen, miscommunication is going to happen, disconnects are going to happen, guys are going to have bad games. Do you have the surrounding talent to step up? And for me, after watching this game, emphatically, it was a yes. They had other guys that could make plays when the plays needed to be made. So, well, I'm not going to make any grand statements about the Cowboys. I'm not saying, hey, they figured it out, they've turned it around. There's a lot to clean up in this game. What would you say? They had 11 penalties, I believe.
Yeah, 11.
Yeah. Against a good team, you're not going to get away with 11 penalties. You're not going to get away with 3 turnovers, and they had 2 bad turnovers in the red zone. I think they had 2 interceptions, and there was technically even a third one that should have happened. When Rico was diving into the end zone, the ball got popped out, and for the Cowboys' sake, thank God that Dak jumped on it, because if not, that could have been 6 the other way. So definitely got to play cleaner ball, but if they can with this deep roster, this is a tough team to stop.